Hello friends, and welcome to our brand new camera comparison between the brand new iPhone 14 Pro Max and its predecessor, the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Right now we are recording at 4K at 30 frames per second. Tell me in the comment section below if you see any differences or if they are actually the same. We start this comparison with our main cameras, but before we do that, let me first clarify the testing process. All of the upcoming daylight pictures are taken in standard mode without adjusting any of the settings. Last year the iPhone 13 Pro Max had one of the best cameras on any smartphone, and now I am happy to report that the new 14 Pro Max improves on that device. When looking at daylight pictures side by side, both devices have the same iPhone style that we all know and love. Pictures taken with these devices have pleasing colors and look amazing. Dynamic range is also very good and similar, but of course there are some differences, so let me break them down. As you can see from these pictures, the new 14 Pro Max is doing a much better job on controlling darker areas. All of the trees here are brighter and more visible compared to last year's 13 Pro Max. That wasn't only a one-time case. In my opinion, this was one of the few weak points of the 13 Pro Max, and I am happy that Apple finally fixed it. We have the same results even with their ultrawide cameras, and while the 13 Pro Max looks very good itself, you can't deny that the new 14 Pro Max looks much better. It is also worth mentioning that we don't have a change of colors compared to their main cameras. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, despite making darker areas more visible, is doing a good job on also retaining lighter colors. Many Android phones prefer to make things brighter, but with the cost of blowing the sky. As you can see here, the 14 Pro Max does an amazing job on retaining the clouds. In some samples I couldn't even find any differences at all, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, since the 13 Pro Max already had amazing cameras. The improvements of its successor are at times where they are needed the most. From what I could see, the 14 Pro Max does a slightly better job with the sky. I prefer its colors over its predecessors. Even though the difference is so tiny here, it isn't even worth mentioning. But in some samples like here the difference is bigger, and it really makes me appreciate the newer iPhone, even though before it came I had almost no complaints at all with the 13. These improvements are always welcomed. The new 48 megapixel camera of the 14 Pro Max does also take great pictures at 2x. Apple says there is no loss in quality at this zoom, and for the most part they are right. When we zoom in on them, you can see the 14 Pro Max picture is very detailed, while the picture taken with the 13 Pro Max isn't as sharp, and some details are starting to get lost. They do also have telephoto lenses at 3x optical zoom, and here in this case they are identical to me. Both are very bright, sharp and have nice colors, and also the dynamic range is exceptional for telephoto lenses. The 13 Pro Max already had the best 3x zoom camera, so I see no problem at all with the fact that the 14 Pro Max isn't doing any better. In this particular case it is slightly brighter, but the difference is minimal. Another area where they are mostly similar is with macro pictures. Thanks to the autofocus on their ultrawide cameras, these devices can take really good macro pictures and at a very close distance. The 14 Pro Max sometimes is able to deliver better pictures, but macro pictures to me aren't that important, and when I look at these samples, even the 13 Pro Max looks good enough. With portrait shots, iPhones were already ahead the competition, and the 14 Pro Max is no different. During last year, every time I took portraits with the 13, I said they can't improve anymore, since that device was already amazing. For the most part I was right, since the 14 Pro Max takes outstanding portraits, but they look just like its predecessors. I did however notice that it makes the hair a little bit brighter, but truth be told this is nothing. Edge detection could be better on both, but overall they are good enough. They do also take portraits with their telephoto lenses, and just like before they are amazing and almost identical in quality. She looks sharp on both devices, and the background colors just pop. One area where I thought I would see improvements is the front camera, but despite having a new sensor, the 14 Pro Max takes similar images with its predecessor. This isn't a bad thing at all, since the 13 Pro Max was already one of the best. While the subject in the foreground is sharp and identical in both devices, I did notice that the background has a slight shallow depth of field on the 14 Pro Max. This is because the 14 has a larger aperture compared to the 13. When recording with their main cameras, just as expected, both are amazing. Stabilization with these phones is just on another level, even without turning on the action mode on the 14. I left that feature off since it crops a lot, and I wanted to do a fair comparison with the 13. When switching to the ultra-wide cameras, the 13 Pro Max kind of changes colors a little bit, and it doesn't look as good as the 14 Pro Max. Nevertheless, both remain really good, and stabilization with these phones is just on another level. At 3x they continue to be identical, but the 13 Pro Max was already the best in class, and honestly speaking, what more can they improve? Both are really sharp with excellent dynamic range. Moving to low light, and from now on every picture is taken with night mode enabled. After looking at these samples, I finally started to see the improvements with the front camera of the 14 Pro Max. Pictures taken with the newer iPhone are slightly brighter and sharper. In this next case, my face and my beard are sharper on the 14, and even the background doesn't suffer from light reflections compared to the 13, which did also blur my beard. Apple claims the new front camera is now 2 times better at night, and I totally agree. With their main cameras, I noticed right away that the 14 Pro Max is sharper compared to its predecessor. When we crop in, you can see the 14 is very detailed, while the 13 has a lot of noise. This comes as a result of the new and improved main camera, which has a lot more pixels. The 14 Pro Max is also brighter in most of the samples. In some cases like this, the difference isn't really that big, only the sky is more visible, but there were cases when they were a lot more different. Here, for example, both are really good and very sharp, but the 14 Pro Max is brighter. This added brightness doesn't turn night pictures into a day, it still keeps the core iPhone colors, it just makes the picture more likable. The sky does benefit a lot from this new sensor, since it is more visible now. The 14 is also doing a better job with light reflections, since these street lights here aren't as distracting. And just look at the buildings on the right. They are visible on the 14, while on the 13 they seem like they are missing. The 13 Pro Max is holding up very well, and besides those small improvements till now, I don't think that the 14 Pro Max is doing a much better job. Sure, it is better, but it isn't actually twice as good. Even with their ultra-wide cameras, for the most part they remain similar. The 14 Pro Max is amazing, but so is the 13 Pro Max, and the differences in this particular case are missing. In cases like here, I saw that the newer 14 is actually brighter, and most of the things are more visible. The building here is bright on the 14, and on the 13 it is way darker. The 14 Pro Max does also have slightly better colors, and overall its pictures look more pleasing. But once again, without trying to repeat myself, the 13 Pro Max is really good too. The ultra-wide camera of the 14 Pro Max has improved quite a lot, and mostly I saw it when there was a lot of greenery in the scene. All of the trees here are more visible, the sky is brighter and there are no reflections at all. At 2x, just like in daylight, the 14 Pro Max is sharper. As you can see, her face is very detailed, while she looks too soft on the 13 Pro Max, even though I don't think the quality is equivalent to an optical zoom. At 3x I was surprised to see the 14 Pro Max performing better, considering that in daylight it was similar to the 13 Pro Max. Here, for example, it is much sharper compared to its predecessor. The 14 Pro Max is brighter here, and whether if it is actually better or not, I will let you decide. To me they are both good. With portraits in low light, I do actually prefer the picture taken with the 14 Pro Max. Her face and even her hair seem to be sharper, even though both pictures are taken with night mode enabled. The 13 Pro Max, however, is doing a better job with edge detection. Just like with the main cameras, even with the telephoto sensors, the 14 Pro Max is sharper. although the 13 Pro Max is once again doing a better job with her hair. So guys, what do you think? Are the improvements of the 14 Pro Max really worth it, or do you think the 13 Pro Max is still good enough? If you did enjoy this video, a thumbs up would be appreciated, and if this is the first time you've seen my channel, consider subscribing for more videos like this.